Well, welcome everyone to another Stoneridge Confab. I will tell you, it has been a very, very fun and long week for me. Lots of travel, lots of customers that I've been meeting, lots of new prospects that we've been talking with. Overall, just a really fantastic week. Just really, really busy. So as you can see, a little bit more cash here today as we go through this. But I guess, Jesse, last week we really focused on a lot of the wave release information. And you know what? We took up a lot more time on the ERP workloads, and I was like, yeah, no, this isn't fair. We need to cover more of the CE stuff as well. So, Jesse, I don't know if you want to do a quick introduction real quick here, but you're joining me really to kind of cover that today. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the team?
Yeah, and usually, to piggyback off that statement too, it's we get into these wave one, wave two releases, and I'm usually obviously sharing the spotlight with ERP, with Business Central and FinOps, and I can't cram all of the new features into the 15 to 20 minutes that I have. So having an entire session dedicated to CE is pretty fantastic. Although, as I mentioned before, there are definitely less features rolling out in Wave 2 here for 2024, but still very interested to talk through them and see what the audience thinks here. So that's my focus to back up there a little bit. So Jesse Buchels, based out of our Barnesville location here in Minnesota, and my focus is on the CE or CRM side of the house.
Awesome. Appreciate it, Jesse. So, just a little bit of housekeeping at the very beginning here. So, obviously, if you've never been on a Stoneridge Confab, it is an interactive experience. Rob is already kicking us off with some nerdy technology discussion in chat that's starting. Feel free to ask questions. If you're on LinkedIn, you can make a comment and we'll see it. If you're on YouTube and you make a comment, we'll see it. Or if you're on Twitch and you make a comment, we'll see it as well. Typically, what we like to do in these sessions is really look at the reality of technology when it comes to the Microsoft stack. Stoneridge Software is who we basically work with, and Stoneridge really focuses on the business system perspective of the Microsoft solution stack. We also then support, as you can imagine, with that, all the Azure, the Windows, the modern work, all those other types of workloads as well. But at a high level, we really focus obviously on these ERP, CRM, and these business systems inside of this space. So with that being said, I guess what I wanted to kind of focus on here for today, Jesse, was just to kind of bring the conversation to that CE perspective of like, really, are we making momentum, right, in terms of features that are being added? And then what's happening maybe in the background too, because I think that's a really important topic to kind of bring up, because if you think about like features per se, a lot of software companies are rated off of how many features they give or they introduce. And I will say, like at the beginning, we got tons of them because they were newer platforms, right? That
Right.
were just getting thrown a ton of new stuff in, right? But at the same point, there's been a big shift too in this AI movement, right? And we're going to talk a little bit more about that today, beyond just kind of the CE perspective, because we know there's a lot of conversation going on right now that's primarily spurred by what we think is probably going to be more of a macroeconomic factor, obviously. But at the same point, it's something that, you're going to hear about. And I think it's really good to talk about because I don't think that people really understand or understood or even now understand what AI means and what it can do and what it can't do, and what others are positioning it to do versus what the reality is. And so I guess what I'm really proud of, Jesse, is as a partner, we have been really vocal in terms of what the great use cases are of it, reviewing them, so much so that we've got some cool things that we'll probably talk a little bit more about as well, Jesse, that our CE team has built out for sales Copilot enablement. So there's a lot of cool stuff and a lot of not just cool, because remember, I want to make sure people understand when I say cool, I mean it increases efficiency, or it's actually going to reduce cost as a part of it, or it's more fun to interact with because it's not so monotonous inside of your day. So I
Right.
guess that's right. That's what I always equate to something that's kind of nice in this space. Not that it's this bleeding edge capability, right? Because that in business is not the message that we typically want to convey to our customers, but we do want to enable them for the future, obviously, and help them win. That's our mission statement. So I guess, Jesse, with that, I've kind of talked a lot here. Why don't we go ahead? I don't know if you want to present your screen, and what I'll do is I'll go ahead and zoom in on this so everyone on stream can see us work our magic, and we will go from there. I'm not
Perfect.
seeing
You just let me
anything
know.
yet. Now I am. So 1 second. There we go. You are on, Jesse.
All right, excellent. So CE focused, right? So today we're gonna be more focused on, specific applications here in the space. So sales, right? Marketing or customer insights now. Sometimes I'm fumbling there with adopting the new
New
name there.
terminology,
Uh,
right? Yeah.
Customer insights, right? Customer service, obviously, and then get into some field service related updates too. So a couple of things just to highlight up front here for those that maybe are newer to Dynamics or haven't gone through, a feature update here. So a few things. Number one, these wave updates, we're talking about wave 2 today. These are twice a year, right? So you get one typically in April and then one in October is more or less what we're focused on. So we're focused on the October release today and what those look like inside of CE. So they do become generally available twice per year. You don't need to go in and do anything to push these updates. It's automatically going to take place. So your environments will be automatically updated. You don't have to go in and schedule the release there. And then if you wanted to go in and test updates early, you can enable a test environment, for example. We don't ever recommend it in production, but you can enable a test environment to preload some of those updates or features that are rolling out. Not all features are eligible for early opt-in access, but some of them that are, it can be nice to go in and test them out, see how it's going to impact your team. So those are some things that I wanted to highlight up front. And then the release dates themselves. So you can see here, we've got quite a few Canada and clients in North America as well. You can see what those release dates look like for rolling these out GA. So Canada looks like September 30th, and the rest of North America, November 21st here. If you're in one of these other regions, you can identify what that date looks like for you as well.
Yeah, and maybe to clarify for the audience too, Jesse. So the region, you can actually see that if I remember correctly on the Dataverse environment.
Yeah.
I had to spin up so for finance and operations, the dev team, they typically interact, for example, when they're doing some of those previews that you interact with, the first
Yeah.
release wave is where they have that. So just something to note, you can't, I don't think, Jesse, like you could spin one up in the first release region, right? And then you can't take your existing environment though and take the North America one and like promote it to first release, right, as part of that process.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. And a couple other things too. So as I mentioned before, usually it's hard to cram all of these new updates into that 15, 20 minutes. We've got a lot more time today. There are 44 new features rolling out. So not as many as we typically have seen in the past. And a lot of times, we're jumping into those release notes right away when they roll out, identifying, especially lately, what's Copilot doing? What are we doing with Copilot in each of these applications here moving forward, or what's rolling out there? So 44 total. We've got 16 in sales, 13 in customer insights or marketing, 9 in customer service, and 6 in field service. So that is what we're able to come away with out of the release notes. So each of those features are going to roll out at different times as well. So it is important to note that of those 44 features, they're not all just going to roll out at the same time. Some of them are going to be delayed. Some of them just aren't ready for prime time and may even get pushed back or may never go GA, right? Depending on how they test for different folks that have access to them. So
Yep.
some I just wanted to highlight up front.
Yep.
All right, so we'll kick things off with sales first. Now, this is something that actually was talked about in the Wave 1 release. It was available for preview and is now rolling out GA. So this is more or less a homepage for Copilot. So typically you're going to get that sidecar experience. If you use Copilot at all inside of one of your CE applications, for example, you've got that sidecar experience where I can access it over on the right-hand side here. So you can see where I've got that icon for Copilot. Typically that is going to be available to me if I'm navigating my accounts, my leads, my opportunities, for example. But now you get a dedicated Copilot homepage where you can interact with your leads, your opportunities, your accounts, any activities. You can see we got suggested actions, and I apologize for the blurry screenshot here. I know it doesn't come through very well. This is something that is available in the environment though. So let me actually flip over and I can give you a better view. If you haven't taken advantage of this yet or loaded it or used it, just to see more or less what that might look like for you. So here inside this demo environment, you can see, again, from my left-hand side map here, I've got Copilot access. I can use these quick prompts or even natural language to go in and interact with Copilot, get suggested actions. Maybe I want to see what my pipeline looks like. So I've got these prompts that'll help me kind of get started here, right? So that's going to pull up my opportunity deal tracker, my sales funnel. I can actually drill down into any of these records right from here as well. So a nice to have, right? I can go in and get latest news about any of the accounts that maybe I'm tied to or I'm the owner of. So here it's going to surface anything off of Bing that might be a news article related to one of the accounts that I might be working on. So again, just at a high level, this is a nice to have. It's something that your sales team members can interact with right from the homepage versus leveraging the sidecar view.
Okay. I don't. You're just holding back right now, Jesse. I can tell. I can tell a little bit. Like this is pretty cool. So number one, there's a couple of technologies that are coming into play here, right? That really start to I think this is the glimpse of the vision. Okay, so let's talk about the glimpse of the vision of where we're going with this, because market-wise right now, everyone's saying all this bad stuff about how it's not useful, okay? And so that's not the reality. I think the reality is it's not as useful as they wanted it to be, and there's concern over cost with this, right? Which is why, I've been hearing people say like GT4 Omni, and they say 4.0, they're like, "Oh, it's no better." It's like, "Well, you do know that the infrastructure cost of that inference has been substantially reduced. So cost wise, they're focusing on making the same results of GTP4, but enhancing the output, but at the same time also reducing the cost of it. And this is why, because when you start thinking about when you have like a main screen that you log into, because what if you go back to that slide, Jesse, that you had, if you look at that main screen, the difference here are adaptive cards that have already been kind of preset for you based upon your role that you're interacting with. And in finance and operations, or finance, excuse me, and supply chain now, we actually now have these hubs that are coming into play that think about it like this. Like if you could walk into the day and have it look through all of your accounts receivable and identify every single accounts receivable that's 30 days late, and have a suggested action that you could click on in your dashboard that would
Right.
then generate an email that references the document that has the attachment that you could then send out to the customer to actually say, hey, you're late behind payment, so that you can then increase your cash, time, or decrease your cash lead time related to it. Like these are areas that we can do right now. Like we're starting to get more and more into that. But what they're looking at doing is, remember, the first waves here were all about building that infrastructure to really support those types of concepts. So now we're starting to see them come to light here. And like you said, Jesse, in the other screen when you were showing it, those adaptive cards right now, you're interacting as an ask and answer with it, but
Right.
that screen really shows me that in the future we may have some type of hub or something like that that we could interact with, which I think would be really, really cool in the future here.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. More to come, I would imagine, right? We're just kind of getting started with this here. And it's, like you said, we're building that infrastructure. And I think it looks great right now. A lot more that we can do with it. And I'm excited to see where it will go from here.
Yep, agreed.
All right. So that was really the first thing I wanted to highlight around sales. Um, Another thing that is again going to be Copilot related, and again I apologize for the blurry screenshots here, but I can interact with this one because it is available in preview, and some of these features today are not, but this one is. So coming into an account, for example, if you've interacted with Copilot, anytime I drill down into an account, I'm going to get a quick account summary. It's going to give me just high level details about that account. I can access news related to that account, for example, and any other high level details around it. But I didn't have access to any related data. And now with this 360-degree view through Copilot, I can access, for example, opportunities, leads, or even cases right from Copilot as well. So I don't have to drill down into different tabs within my form or different tables or even switch applications to access my cases there. I can actually get that information right from Copilot as well. So just to show what that might look like, if I go into my accounts here. You can see I'm switching now to that sidecar view for Copilot. And by opening up, for example, a datum incorporated here, that's going to prompt Copilot to deliver some of that summary information related to the account that I'm on automatically. So I don't need to do anything here. As soon as my form loads, Copilot is going to kick in to high gear here and give me some information related to this account. But it's also going to deliver now, because I've got that preview enabled, it's going to deliver some of those related records here. So leads, opportunities, cases are all going to be populated here as well. So I can drill down into some of that information. So here I've got my account information and demo magic, of
Right,
course. So
right.
this is something that was working early. Again, it's in preview, so bear with us here. But that is something that you would see roll up underneath my account summary. So I would have access to those related records on
That
this account.
so, and let's talk a little bit about that. So I think people like it's just once again I'm finding more and more of the education around what Copilot does well versus what it does not is really important, right? So if you're thinking Copilot is going to be this thing that does mathematical operations really easily and really well, you're going to be disappointed. That's not the intent of Copilot at this current state. It's a word calculator is the most simplest way I can probably put it, right? Where you're actually going through and providing information to it, and it's summarizing it, or it's trying to predict basically what the next word should be that is accurate based upon its learnings in its neural network, right? So at a high level here, like on the far right, these cards then become valuable because if you think about Copilot in the future here, that means then that I can surface this card inside of Teams, or I can surface this card inside of F&O or any other
Right,
area in the modern works life. So like Excel, like go ahead and pull all my customers from finance and supply chain that have a customer group of 10. Like imagine you tell it to do that and it knows the data endpoint for the customers, it understands the schema and what customer group means, and then it pulls that data back for you as a part of it. Well, that's where we're going with this, right? Where we're going to be able to use some of those types of features really to drive that. And I'd even argue, Jesse, like today we can do that. We can actually go into Copilot, for example, here and extend this. We can actually basically tell it, hey, if you get a question that is about customers, this is where our master data is. Use this endpoint to get that information. It
right.
actually can technically do it. I've actually created things like that in Copilot Studio. So this is where we're now seeing the acceleration, right? You've got the build up and now you have the acceleration. And these features, like you said, Jesse, they don't feel big in terms of the number that comes out, but they are impactful because they're starting to finally use that architecture and make it easier to use these in other areas too, right? So this is pretty cool in my mind, Jesse. I think it makes it just easier for people to have summary data at the fingertip. Like I had a case in point with it, Jesse. I had a demo this week on Monday. On Sunday, I was in the environment, going through everything, making sure everything was good to go, right? Because it's not a demo unless it breaks, and I don't want to break it. So what we did then is we actually went through and we demonstrated the functionality. And that night before, an update had been applied, and I have it set to automatically add updates. All of a sudden, I had Copilot summary information on sales orders that I didn't have before. I had it on customers. And I'll tell you, that's where it became impactful because I was able to say, hey, I just got this last night. I've got this new Copilot capability. This is the cool thing about the Wave release lifecycle that we have. It looks like a minor feature, but every user in their room was like, I don't have to click down to go get to that information. It's in the
Right.
summary right there. And it was like, yep, less clicks, right? And for end users, like I don't think we as technologists sometimes we think about that. This is a tool for them. This is not something that they look at and is like, "Oh, that's cool because it looks cool." It's because they want to be home faster, or they want to be able to do more. They want to be able to understand more about that opportunity like in this situation. So, like I said, Jesse, I think that it's a really cool thing to see that these features are starting to be introduced at this pace, and hopefully we're going to see even more coming up here.
Absolutely. Yeah. How do I be more productive? How do I get my work done faster? We talk about swivel chair all the time, right? The cross application experiences where you're bringing in Teams or Outlook or SharePoint and enabling that end user to really do their work from one location, not having to drill down into multiple forms or tables, right, to get access to that data. So that is going to be very helpful.
Yep. That's awesome, Jesse.
All right, let's see what else we got here. So um, the lead qualification process, I thought this was interesting. So this is something that it's not enabled yet, so I wasn't able to preview it. But if you can read my fuzzy screenshot here well enough, basically the lead qualification process inside of sales, when I would get a lead up until now, I'm able to go in and qualify that lead once I determine that they've met specific criteria as defined by my current sales process. When I do that, it's going to allow me to go in and create an account, contact, and/or opportunity. So I have that option today. What this is going to allow you to do is once that account, or I'm sorry, that lead has been created and or qualified and turned into an opportunity, you're going to be able to manually go in then and determine who you want to assign it to. But the real interesting piece here is you're going to be able to create multiple opportunities from a single lead. So when I've worked on projects in the past around sales, I've gotten into a scenario where customers have wanted that functionality out of the box, and we've had to go in and create workflows, for example, to clone an opportunity to go in, obviously duplicate that, and then using that second opportunity for something else, right? Well, now I can go in and I can actually create multiple opportunities. I don't know if you can see that feature, that option here. I can create multiple opportunities from a qualified lead. So I'll be interested to play around with that and really see how it works. But at a high level, I think that's going to be a big win.
Yeah, that is we have lots of scenarios, right, that we've had that require like even in our business technically,
Yeah,
like we'll have an opportunity that's a lead that will come in and we'll find out that it actually has, maybe three or four different products that are involved that they've got some questioning around. And so, typically what we like to do is align the opportunity to the workload that's going to be tackled. So, and there's ways to tackle that, right? I think Jesse as well.
sure.
What we've done is we've got consolidated views in our opportunities that we did to get around that, where we've got products as services, and then we've got those services that are there. But it does make it easier then to filter down, for example, in a more complex environment. Like if you have an opportunity for a specific product and there are only specific services that are available, having that at the opportunity can make it easier to filter basically that data down, so that you do select the right products, for example. So that's kind of cool. But architecturally, that's gonna be interesting, right? Because it would go from a one to one now to a one to many
Right.
that could happen from this, which is very interesting.
Yep. No, that's a good point. It's nice to know that we don't have to create a workaround, that it's native, right? So that will, yeah, I think it's a big win. All right. So next, let's see. So some of the cross app experiences that were highlighted here as a part of this Wave 2 release. So summarize and save notes into CRM from OneNote. So this feature is going to allow you to, inside of OneNote, to be able to take that note and push it into CRM with the click of a button, right? So not having to copy and paste those in and create a new note. You're going to be able to link your OneNote to CRM and then just automatically copy those notes right into CE, into sales here. So I think that's a win. Inside of Outlook, so we've got a new feature rolling out here around. It's basically focused on recent communication. So inside of Outlook, you've got Copilot, the Copilot application, right, embedded inside of Outlook there. You're going to have a new card that's going to be, it sounds like it's going to be called Recent Communications. That's going to list out any recent Teams meetings as well as summarize any recent emails with your customer. So this is something that, again, eliminating that swivel chair impact where when I'm inside of Outlook, I don't have to go and do a search inside of Microsoft Teams to identify when the last maybe Teams meeting or interaction took place with that customer or that client. It's all going to be listed for me in this card view.
Yeah, and I want to add a couple opinions here too, Jesse. I'm full of them today, as you can tell. So, yeah, the summarize and save notes. I mean, it sounds like such a minor feature to start, I'll tell you. So Matt Van Dyke on our team, we were going through with another prospect, a scenario where we wanted to track some of these opportunities, and there's a lot of free text or free form email that was coming through as they were going through that process. And what Matt pointed out is the fact that in the Outlook add-in that is inside of Outlook that connects then to D365 Sales, which is called Copilot for Sales, right? Is part of it. And so what that enables though is that same feature like in OneNote to say, hey, copy this data, the notes basically or the summary of that email. We can AI generate it and then bring it into the timeline of CRM. Now, at first, it's like, well, big deal, right? Well, let's kind of unload that a little bit. Sometimes emails are super verbose, right? And finding information inside of that email is a pain. I've had multiple times where information has been embedded somewhere further down that I didn't understand. And when I responded, I didn't have that information, right? And I'm not saying the Copilot summaries are always going to catch that, but they will help you with it. And what's interesting about it is that you can then summarize that email, put it into the timeline, and now that's data that's inside of your Dataverse environment. It's
Right.
something that you can access. It's something that you could say, hey, when a timeline event occurs, have a Power Automate that calls there's a prompt. You can do a prompt and say, hey, if there's a note that comes in here that requires me to inform the seller, create, or notify the seller with it, because not in every situation do you want a timeline note to actually drive potentially and automate. You may want to have it fire, but you may not want it to do anything, right? So it just, once again, it just starts making it easier for you to set something up very quickly and rapidly, to have some intelligence to look at it without you having to say, look at these exact keywords that are inside of it, right? Or keep on adding to that list, or trying to create these complex regex expressions that filter out and find keywords inside of it based upon a list that the company maintains. No, instead you create a Power Automate. You tell the prompt to look for these characteristics in the email, and then you manage it and you improve that prompt over time, which we'll talk about. But it just once again, it's a really powerful feature because it's allowing us now to take notes and bring those in, and we could even make it like action items, for example, that are in there could potentially then drive the creation of appointments with Power Automate and using these.
Right.
So people need to think through those types of concepts in order to start really seeing traction around these large language models. And like I said before, the way that you ask the question to a large language model matters immensely in how it works. So
Yeah.
with that, let's keep going here, Jesse. I don't want to derail us too far here.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to point out too, these features it looks like are coming in. Well, the Outlook feature in October and the OneNote feature in December. So got a little while to wait for those ones to roll out, but coming soon. So customer insights, getting into some customer insights updates here. We're about the halfway mark of the hour. So a couple of things. Um, for starters, so create brand consistent emails with templates and Copilot. So to me, the look and feel of this one is, I would say, is almost similar to like in PowerPoint when you use the designer feature, right? Go in and it's going to take what you've already created, or maybe just you've got an email where you've got a little bit of content on there. It's going to go through and Copilot's going to help with some suggested options there for redesigning that email to make it more impactful, focused around your branding, the layout that you've got there, and then help you create new templates. One thing that I found interesting here, and I wasn't able to find much for information around it, is in this area here under Get Started, you can see we've got projects listed here now. That is not something that we have today. So I'm interested to see where this is going. You can see we've got project board up here. Then launch announcement is likely the email or the campaign that we're running. But I'm curious to see where this takes us here with this project piece or this project feature, because it's not listed in the Wave 2 updates here. So maybe this rolls out
Ooh.
when this goes GA, but yeah, very curious.
That is really curious. So actually, Carly, yeah, you're right. So Carly commented the email template feature looks awesome. Love how it contributes to brand consistency, right? Like, you know, people, it's all about elevating the masses, right? So if you know how to do HTML, CSS, and you can make some really nice content, right? But imagine the person that just, we want to create something quickly and easily, but look sharp, right? It's about making that quickly, and this, like you see here, just really allows for that. Joe also put a comment in the background. Of course, Joe, you saw it too on the fifth. The Copilot summaries on customers, items, orders, etc., is a game changer for productivity, bringing all the important information to the surface. Yeah, right. And then in the future, I we should be able to extend that, right? Add
Yeah.
these fields into those summaries. So, yep, absolutely. This is really cool. It's a nice feature to have, and it just, that project perspective, though, I like that, Jesse. That's a good eye. Like, I'm curious. In chat here, does anyone know what that is? Has anyone heard anything about that project board inside of here? And yeah, I'd be really curious because I have not seen that either, Jesse. To be honest.
Yeah, the limited time that I researched, looking for that new feature, I couldn't find anything around it. Nobody's written any blogs around it either. So, is it something where we're creating a new project that's going to contain the journey that we're using, the segments, the emails, et cetera, any assets that we've got, they're all in a project, right? So ultimately rolling up that campaign into one area where you're storing all of your anything that you're using for that campaign. So yeah, I'm definitely curious. We'll see what that looks like. There are a couple features where I noticed projects was listed there as one of the options. So it didn't speak to it, but yeah, I want to know more. So if anybody knows anything about this, please
Spam
don't
it in
hold back.
chat, right? Right.
Let us know. So take campaigns from concept to launch using Copilot. This is actually something that's been in preview for a couple of months now. It is going to go GA. It was in preview in wave one. I think it's a fantastic feature, using natural language to more or less to describe what you want that customer journey to look like, and then allowing the journey builder to go through and more or less set up a template for you to go in and modify your journey, right? So specifying which email or which audience you want to market to as a part of that journey, but really setting up the template for you, right? So entry and exit criteria, so on and so forth. I think this is a great feature. It was moved back here to wave two, so I wanted to highlight that again. It's not something that they decided to can, and they just pushed it back a little bit. So
This is the
so this is
this is the one where you can tell it and it'll make it. Is that what it is? Type of a thing. Okay.
exactly, yeah,
Okay.
kind of kickstarts your customer journey for you.
That's awesome.
It will ask you, if you're asking for a marketing campaign to send an email after someone is registered for an event, for example, it's going to kickstart a lot of those actions throughout the campaign, and then it's going to ask you to specify which email, which event, so on and so forth, and how long do you want to wait. But it's going to set up the template at least for you to help guide you through setting up the journey. So
Definitely a welcome thing.
absolutely. This one I thought was interesting too. So this is something that it's not in preview yet either. Preview is going to roll out in October, but there's going to be an event portal that Customer Insights will help spin up for you, and then any events that you have, it will help preload this event portal for you, giving links and high-level information to anyone that navigates to it. It's going to allow you to go in and embed this into your website or use Power Pages to deploy it as well. But again, something that's rolling out in October here, as far as a preview goes, anyway. But I think that should be a welcoming addition as well, right? Something that just one less thing for you to go in and have to set up
Right.
the event information that you're trying to push out to your customer base. Email engagement with heat map analytics. So this is something that we had in a similar feature in outbound marketing, and it wasn't available in real-time marketing, which is what we've transitioned to here. But now we're going to have heat map analytics. This is going to be available for preview in October. So for example, if this was your email here, you're going to be able to go in and get heat map analytics or click-through rates. If you've got different links or images, what are people clicking on? What's working, what isn't? So you can really identify that email that you built out, any changes that you think you might need to make here.
Well, this is the example, Jesse, of the 80-20 rule with me. This is the 20% I do not know. So I've known about like the embedding of like dots and things like that inside of emails to capture detail. So in a lot of these now, they're capturing where the end user clicks in the email to
Yep.
then, wow, okay. So that way, based upon the behavior, you can actually make more pointed content in the future, or
Right.
what draw or drew people in. Like they always talk about call to action, right? Which is orange or whatever it is. Okay, that's really cool. Okay.
Yeah, so this April Fool's Day image, they're highlighting that there were 36 clicks. It's got the link there, your click-through rate, so on and so forth. So additional information I would imagine will be available there as well, but all part of that Insights tab available on your email. So it'd be nice to see that one come through because again, that was available. That was a feature, similar feature available inside of outbound marketing prior.
Yep. That's awesome.
All right. Moving on to customer service. So a few features here as well. So View Copilot generated proactive prompts and insights. So as an agent inside of customer service, when you're maybe communicating with a customer, for example, Copilot is going to give you, and you can see it's labeled idea here, right, within this card view. So it's going to give you insights into specific customer related data. So customers calling in this particular screenshot, saying that they're experiencing frequent crashes with their console during gameplay sessions. It might be worth noting that hey, we've got some Xbox controllers that have been shipped out and the date, so on and so forth. So different information that will surface that Copilot is going to pull up and allow that agent to help guide them through a conversation they might be having with a customer. So customer service doesn't have a whole lot there today, Copilot related, but I think this is a big win.
Yeah, and I don't know that I see something that just is really screaming at me in the face here, Jesse. Yeah, right? So plugins going into other systems to grab the information to help a customer service agent know where something is at based upon an issue that's been reported. I didn't have to click on anything to get to that, right?
Right.
So now maybe you train and use. So this is all about the assistive concept, right? What I would do as a leader is I'd still train people on how to get to that information, but at the same point, like like the next step here will be it gives you that detail, and then in the plugin it gives you a link that you can click on to verify and validate that that was correct. And
Sure.
verifying and validating is a lot faster than then going down into, create a response and all this other type of stuff that you're going to have to do with it. So this is pretty cool. That plugin architecture, like I said, I think that that's going to be really nice because then you can integrate a lot of these other experiences then obviously with many different systems that can culminate this information. So this is a pretty powerful feature.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Uh, we're on customer service as well. So Microsoft Teams, a couple of things to note here. So provide meeting summary and follow-ups to create CRM tasks. So if as an agent you're using Teams to communicate with your customers, and today we use it internally at Stoneridge, right? We're leveraging Copilot for sales, right? So after our Teams meetings, we're getting transcription, you're getting call recording information and suggested actions. You're going to have that same experience with Copilot for Service now moving forward as well. So something to highlight. I think it's a great feature. Again, we use it here at Stoneridge quite a bit, or I do at least. Rely on that. I think it's a fantastic feature. So something that they're going to have available on the service side now moving forward as well. And then being able to query over CRM data in Copilot as well. So something where we can actually we're gonna have direct access to all of our CRM data inside of Copilot for service inside of Microsoft Teams too.
Yeah,
Kind
that's
of
a
more or less mimicking what we've got available to us.
Yeah, and just to give some
Yeah.
feedback on that, so there's been so just as an example here, like on D365 sales, those meeting summaries, like I'll just say it. I'll go on a limb here. Every single sales team member at Stoneridge, where remember, it's not all about just drinking Kool-Aid. It's about we've got a job to get done as well, obviously. And the big thing I want to just kind of denote with that is the fact that every experienced seller that's used that summary and follow-up capability absolutely loves it. They can stay, imagine as a seller that you can stay engaged with your prospect or even with your customer, where you've got transcription that's starting that's going to keep track of everything that was discussed so that you can then at the end have a summary. And then on top of that, what you can also do is then have action items that were discussed kept track of. The question is really going to be here, Jesse, is how accurate is it, right? Because there's all
Right.
this inaccurate, statements that happen around some of these results, is what we've seen in the past. But it feels like the right now where we're at in the D365 sales environment, for example, like I don't hear complaints from people about inaccuracy anymore when it comes to things like that when it goes through the transcription as a part of it. The sales team views it as assistive, not as replacing their role and responsibilities of making sure that they're keeping track of action items, but also to make sure that how accurate are they, right, in terms of the responses so they can trust that information more. So, like you said, I think this will be nice. And I don't know, Jesse, have you heard similar sentiment by chance or not?
Yeah, I mean, you make a good point about, having good, reliable, trusted data, right? So even as, going through and testing some of those features like sentiment analysis, they're pretty neat, right? But they're not always the most accurate. I think it's a great feature. It's come a long way here, since it was introduced here in the last, what, 2 years now. We've probably, introduced a conversation intelligence or call recording features, and seeing a lot of that with Copilot for sales, and now with Copilot for service as well.
Yep. Yep. And I think, maybe to the audience, I'd be really curious on what they think the opinion is on this, more specifically. Like think about it this way. If it helps 80, if it's 80% accurate, but you have a process of validation for it, like if you think like that, like you can actually get to a point where you are going to have efficiency gains. I get the inverse though, meaning if it's 20% accurate, that's not good. We don't
Yeah,
want that at all. But at the 80% and above level, which I feel is kind of where we're at and getting even closer, even higher up as part of it, the question would be like, is it supposed to be assistive? Or is it supposed to be telling you how to do your job? And I don't think it's the latter. I think it's supposed to be assistive for you, and it's a tool that helps you then be better than for those summaries. I mean, think about it this way. Set up the meeting summary so after you're done with that prospect or that customer, that it sends that summary and the action items that were identified as a part of it in an email in an automated process. I mean, how much better can you get to relay information not only in your organization but potentially externally as well to drive more conversation around it? And like I said, I see sellers doing that manually now by copying and pasting and then summarizing that, or even copying and pasting AI summaries and meetings that we've had so that we get the context of what was being discussed, because we have to be careful in that summary land, right, of making improper decisions around it. But it's up to the team then to make sure that they're using it as an assistive and not as a replacement of what their role is inside of the org, right?
definitely, definitely. Yep. All right. We've got about 15 minutes left. Want to get through customer service. So, remote assistant teams call from field service mobile. I know you did a more in-depth field service mobile confab at some point here. I'm trying to remember how far back it was, but really highlighting the new field service mobile experience. So, remote assist in Teams call from field service mobile. This is something where inside of field service mobile, you're going to be able to trigger remote assist capabilities. And remote assist is now going to be included as a part of that field service license. So your team members will have access to remote assist and inside of the application without having to acquire another license there, right? So you can see from these screenshots, these are actually good screenshots for once, but this good screenshot here where we can come in and we get that immersive experience where we can come in, we can record that call as well, but I can go in and I can put text, right? You can see how I've got this arrow capability to go in, highlight that, and then more or less have that call recorded, and maybe it's tied to an asset, right? As I'm working on a work order here. So going in, but being able to troubleshoot then with a colleague or a team member, maybe back in the office. I think there's a lot of value there as well.
Yeah, remember the remote assist? Like if you think about tech stack introductions, like HoloLens was really that initiator, I think, of like some of the augmented reality capabilities that we were looking at incorporating. It was really interesting to see, Jesse, what other partners did with that, where they took like iPads. I remember like years ago as HoloLens was introduced, then they started taking the iPad and the iPad would then do the overlay with it so that they had control systems with it. Here's the cool thing about it. So I guess what I'm hearing here is if you have field service mobile and you have a field service license, you can now use a very similar technology to that for free, basically,
Yeah,
right? Meaning,
right.
like, I know free is subjective, right, team? I want to be really careful with that statement, but
It's
it's a,
included.
yeah, right? So now you're able to actually harness potentially that capability where there's lots of customers that we have that do field service support for the products that they install. And what they'll do is you can actually now start taking resources that are trained, that are lower cost resources, and consistently give a good quality experience. Because you got to, as a leader, you got to balance that, right? But what you can do is you can scale more, meaning now Jesse, who knows everything about CE, right? We can have somebody go out on site to help with customers, but then if he runs into an issue that's like, okay, this is something I've not seen before, you can contact maybe product teams, dev teams, whatever it is, or even support teams internally at the organization to then use that overlay to have a more pointed conversation. And I guess, Jesse, I'm waiting for the next steps here with this, like the recording and the transcript then that can be used to drive then
Right.
opportunity creation for sales team members, because it was mentioned on the call that they wanted to buy that, and we use AI to scan these transcripts that are going on. Like there's just it just starts opening up more opportunities there, right? So go
I
ahead, Jesse.
like
I'm
I
nerding
like
out
it.
too
I like
much,
where your head's
right?
at there.
Right?
That's fantastic. You need to submit that to the ideas
Right?
portal for Microsoft, I think. I like it. All right. So enhanced Copilot experiences in the web app. So, I would say, those using field service and sales, if you're dedicated to the field service app, you're probably starting to get a little jealous of some of the features inside of sales. Copilot was rolling out, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
now that's starting to balance out a little bit more. So inside of the web app, you're gonna have access to a lot of those same summary features. Being able to leverage Copilot to get information on your accounts, your work orders, your bookings. So there are going to be some prompts, some prompt guides to help work you through it as well. So a lot of team members inside of field service might not be comfortable using Copilot, but very similar to sales, going to help guide you through and get you more comfortable using the solution. So something to highlight there that this is also rolling out on the field service side. And then summarize work orders with Copilot in Outlook. So there is a field service Copilot application, field service Copilot application inside of Outlook as well. Um, Within that application, I know, Scott, you've demoed this in the past as well. I can
Yep.
get a work order that comes through, and maybe in this case, Claudia sends an email over looking for maintenance, it looks like, there's fuzzy text here. I can quickly go in and create an email right from this, or create a work order right from this email, get work order summary information. Really, what it looks like is you're gonna have the same access to account, contact, work order, and booking summary information that you would in the web application. So that same access to Copilot inside of Outlook related to field service. So I think that's pretty fantastic as well. I've played around with it, a few times, especially in demos. It's really fun to highlight that. People love the feature. I think it's fantastic. It's there are still a few things, a few enhancements that it
Yep.
could probably use, right? But definitely on the right track there.
Yeah, one of the prominent features of LLMs is it's really good at predicting words, right? That then can be used for summaries. So it just once again, I agree, Jesse. Like it's nice to have that capability. The one thing I want to mention too, just so the team kind of understands longer term here, that Copilot pane, right, that pops out. So this isn't technically the Copilot pane, but when that pane pops out, those adaptive cards you can do that basically inside of any of the applications now. So meaning if I create an adaptive card, it's a layout basically, and if you ever use Copilot Studio, there's actually an editor. So when you actually go ahead and create a prompt, you can actually say create an adaptive card, and then a website will pop up that shows you how to format it. You've got different versions, for example. Well, I guess the key thing I just wanted to convey is that they've kind of standardized that between the business apps. So in F&O, for example, the same control, the same Copilot pane, which we call a control and programming language at a high level, I know. But what that is basically the same thing that's in CE as a part of it. There's different versions that are enabled depending upon the product, obviously. But the nice thing here is that if you're learning about how to use these adaptive cards and how to actually interact them with Copilot using Copilot Studio, that's going to be stuff that you can use then across all the different applications as well. So you can do that in finance. BC, there's a different strategy that's being looked at for it. It'll be interesting to see once we get more definition on that. But on the F and supply chain management side, that is also that same control. So, anyways, why don't you show this, Jesse, because this is pretty cool right here.
Yeah, no. So just kind of wanted to highlight real quick for those that maybe hadn't seen this in the past. So we've got this, the field service um, application here snapped over to the right side of my screen, loads just like Copilot for Sales, for example, right? So I had this email come in from John Doe looking to get a couple desks delivered. I can go in, all I had to do is click create work order, and it's going to make some assumptions around what kind of work order. Well, it looks like maybe a new installation, right? We're gonna install these desks. It's already got the account tied to the sender, right? So my contact John Doe works for a Datum Corporation. I've got this status ready to schedule, and I can prioritize it. Now, if I wanted to go in and go ahead and create that, I could click save. I could have modified it, but now that's going to give me some options. So do we want to also send an email response back to this customer? Do we want to go ahead and schedule it right away? So I've got a couple of options here. I can draft this email with scheduling suggestions. This is going to go in, and if you use Copilot before, you know that it's already pulling in data from the email to help suggest different times. But I can go in and I could have it modified, right? I could regenerate it. Maybe I don't like the look and feel of this one, or I could go in and adjust the length or tone of this email and have it regenerated as well. And once I'm ready, I can go ahead and trigger a new email. So that's going to add the email. That's going to load a new email, default back to John Doe, plugs my signature in there, and it's going to kick over some different options here for delivery. So pretty neat feature to be able to go in and just leverage Copilot to create that, help me schedule it right away on the fly. Once I've got it created, now I can go back to my main home screen here, and I've got visibility to that work order, or really any other work orders that might be tied to me, or maybe I'm the owner or the seller, right? So I've got access to all that work order information. I can drill down into any of these and get some high level information there. So really a nice feature to have, again, eliminating the swivel chair, right? We don't have to go into Dynamics to do this. I got an email that came in, I created a work order, I can schedule it all right from here. I don't need to go into field service to do it.
Love it, Jesse. I could say so much about this right now, but we're I know time wise, right? Let's keep rolling. That's a fantastic feature.
Okay, so that was really the end of it as far as the core applications. There was one thing I wanted to pull up, kind of a on the fly here, and I'm gonna call this a Wave 2 feature. But have you seen this recycle bin feature that is now available? I did read up on it a little bit. So you go in, you're in CE, you delete a record, right? You assume that it's gone forever. I've deleted it; it's permanently gone. You can actually go in and enable this recycle bin now, and I can set my recovery time up to 30 days. Where then, as an admin, you have to have a system admin role. I can go in and I can recover any deleted files or records, I should say, out of Dataverse. I thought that was
Interesting.
a pretty neat feature. It is in preview, right? It's new, but I thought it was a nice to have.
I wonder how many. That's an interesting feature, right? Because some of the problems that we have with, like, if you think of like restore type technologies, right? All the restore technologies, they're industry standard, mind you. It's Azure, right? Typically the Azure SQL backend, so point in time restore is supported. But the conversation is always, well, it's not record level, meaning like you're not point in time restoring only a subset of tables. I think there are ways potentially to do that, but at the same point, like this is just a native feature then that's enabled for it. So if you delete a record, are there only Jesse, did you see if there are specific tables that are supported with it by chance or not, or what?
I did not see that it was specific tables, no,
Okay.
but I'll have to read up on it a little bit more, see when this is actually going GA. But it sounds like as an admin, then I could go into Power Apps Maker Portal, and then I can access any of those deleted records and make them active again from there.
Awesome. Well, I think like you said, it'll help a lot of scenarios because I'm sure there are customers that have accidentally deleted something that then they're told they have to do a point in time recovery, that they've then had
Yep.
tons of other records that have been created and they just want to restore that one record. One thing to note, I would expect here and just think through this a little bit, maybe that's what we do as thought leaders as we start looking at this feature. I'm sure it's going to impact storage, right? So that's going to be
Sure.
something that you're
Yeah,
going to have to consider potentially with that, and
definitely.
maybe it won't, right? Maybe it doesn't impact that, and that's the that would be even better, right? Because then you can have at least 90 days of history, but we all know 90 days of history in a high transaction volume environment could be quite a bit of data that's being saved on
Right.
the back end, right? So, anyways, okay,
Absolutely.
that's a
Yeah,
good one.
some I'll
Probably,
play around with a little bit.
yeah, glad you brought it up, Jesse. That's a really cool feature right there. So. All right, so that was kind of it. Let's go ahead and I'm going to put us back to the just chatting. So Jesse and I were just on the screen here. I guess I'm really curious. Anyone in chat, what did you think of the content we went through here today? There's absolutely, a lot in terms of enablement around Copilot here, right? And I guess maybe what I want to do is just, last minute here. I don't want to be on a high horse or anything else like that, but I do want to just make some statements around like where we at Stoneridge, I think, align towards where AI and where really Copilot enablement is going. Because I think that there's been a lot of negative connotation, and I'm not going to be able to summarize it in 2 minutes, but I guess the big thing to note is that, a lot of the stuff that we're tackling isn't as fast, I get it, as everyone wants it to be. It never is, especially with the introduction of a new technology. I've heard people equate this to HoloLens. I've heard people equate this now as well to metaverse. And, there's some interesting topics to talk through on that. Maybe we should even do a total confab about that. Like the investment that's being done, like 19 billion by Microsoft in the last quarter, which exceeds really the budget that they used even like the full last year, from what I recall with it. And the investment, it's the single biggest investment that Silicon Valley has made in its history, right, around AI. So it's a big bet for a lot of companies. There's a lot of companies that are winning off of it too, like Nvidia, who makes the silicon that drives that. I guess the thing I just want to relay to each and every single one of you is that this is never going to be as big as it's hyped up to be, but it's not as small as we can see here as what other people are saying on the other side of this. So from a Stoneridge perspective, we are really looking at real use cases that focus on the end user. And I want to give one perfect example because I traveled all week. TSA now has these cameras that they use, and there's a whole different conversation about data protection and rights around that. But I was watching as people were going through the checkpoints and how much slower the lines were that used the actual camera technology versus how much faster they were when we used, for example, the cards, right, our IDs as part of it. I guess the thing I want to just kind of implore everyone around the automation that we're looking at, think about things that are in the lens of the person that is using it. Don't think about the lens of what you want to sell. Don't think about the lens of what you think it could be. Don't think about the lens of how cool the technology is. Think about how you're going to help that person go faster, be more efficient, be more accurate, or to elevate them as you go through really kind of the ideas that you want to use. And don't use AI as the blanket word. If you want to use a blanket word to say we can make things go faster or better, call it automation, because that's really what we're tackling with AI enablement. We're trying to make it faster and better for people as they go through those experiences. So I just wanted to kind of mention that. Remember, there's going to be a lot of different noise that's out there. We're going to continue to obviously look at like what are the real world scenarios that help businesses win off of this, and we're starting to see them, to be honest. So it's really exciting and really cool. And like I said, it's not going to move as fast as we want it to, but dang well it has been moving, and we are
Yeah.
starting to see some of those results. So I guess with that, Jesse, any parting words from you as well? You're good.
Happy Thursday.
Yeah,
Have a
right.
good weekend,
Exactly.
everyone.
Exactly. Well, thank you, everyone. 2 weeks from now, we will be going over some of the leverage automation capabilities that we're looking at adding, which of course includes some of the Copilot enablement and some of the ideas that we have on our ag side of the business. So if you're curious on like where beyond, for example, even like precision ag, which does use a lot of machine learning, like where we're starting to see more use of Copilot in AI inside of the ag space, like ag retailers and commodity processors, make sure to join that. But I guess with that, everyone, have a fantastic rest of your week, and we will see you in 2 weeks for